Hello, my name is Ben Whiteley. Back again with another video for the course data visualization. So today I'm gonna be walking through ParaView, which is an open source data analytics and visualization software that is popular among the scientific and engineering disciplines. So we dive right into it. So for this video, I decided to explore one of the existing data sets within ParaView, and that is the head VTI, which essentially uh, is a 3D um, composition of a CT scan of a human's head. So this is what the data looks like. Yeah, and as part of this data, we see that we only have we have one property. That's a scalar property. We only have scalars, so we can go ahead and maybe verify that by inspecting some of the values within our volume. So can do that with this selector here. So for example, if I select, we see the scalar, we see that we have scalar values. We don't have any direction information regarding the values at this point. So at this point is 2141100. So these are the XYZ axle, and yeah, at this point we have only this value, so which essentially represents the density at this point. So since this is a data set of a CT scan from a human head, so we can think of it as the density at this point. Yeah, we can investigate further. So we have different densities, so we can see that the scalar values change. But we can see that, for example, these points in here are close in value. See 100, 1000 something. They're very close, so that means they pretty much have the same density. So if I go somewhere here, then we have zero. So this is a zero density scalar value. So that means we probably do not have any information around this dark blue or navy blue area, because you see that density value is zero. So we probably have to think of a way to get rid of this to get a better intuition of what our data actually looks like. So the next thing I do, I try to first slice through that block. So this block we've had previously here, I slice into it. And when I slice, you see that, yeah, we have a shape of the human head. So that means, yeah, this right here, as you've seen while inspecting the densities, is actually the human head. So this is the data we might be interested in exploring. So I go ahead and do a line plot. I don't know if you can see this line. It goes through vertically to the bottom, just to assess the organ densities along this line vertically within the data. And yeah, we can see that for the most part. So my intuition is that this light blue here, these are probably organs like the skin, the brain, the tongue, and then these values that are turning to red, probably the bone. They have a higher density, as we can see on our scalar scale. Yeah, so I try to analyze the density is along this line, this point. And yeah, we can see that along that line, we have a few values with a high density. That's around 2,500. And yeah, that's probably some bone, maybe a skull. like even 2000, and then a majority of the density values are within 1100. And as you can see here, that's like the light blue area. So my intuition is that those are the organs. Then next, since we already know that there's no information around this navy blue area, so I try to do some volume rendering. So you see, when we do the volume rendering, it actually shows us exactly where the volume is. So you see this thing, fog-like area was the area with the zero density, so meaning there was no information there. So you see, when we do the volume rendering, it actually shows us the head of the human. Yeah, it looks like this was a patient, and they have a pipe going through their mouth all the way down their throat. Yeah, and yeah, so here just try to visualize it side by side with the original block of data and the data we obtain after doing the volume rendering. So furthermore, I just take a quick glance at what the slice looks like after the volume render, and it's not much different than as you can see, I'm slicing only like not at the center of the head. It's towards the side, this end. Yeah, but again, we can see these pixels, these values with the higher densities are probably the bones, and these intermediate density values are other organs. Yeah, and this blue area, there's nothing there. That's just zero density. Yeah, so the next thing I do is I look at so I try to do a deeper assessment of the organs by using the contour filters. So as you can see, this is the volume head down here after volume rendering. So when we do a contour, so yeah, if I take you quickly back, maybe to this volume render here, you see that we pretty much have like around 4 predominant densities. So we have this density that's tending towards red, and then this light pink brownish density, and then we have the light bluish density, and then this dark navy blue density. So out of that intuition, I base on that to do the contouring. So I do 3 contours. I apply a filter that establishes 3 contours. And as you can see, it sort of extracts the different layers here. So you do have this, the first layer, which is sort of like the skin. And then we have the bone, and then some inner organs. I guess these are some of these parts of the brain, but some of those density values might actually be sorry, it's the bone. So you find that these inner densities are slightly less, not as strong as the ones on the surface. So you find that the surface part of the bone is harder than when you go deeper inside the skull. Yeah, so I furthermore try to split the contours and visualize them. So this is the skull. As you can see, I've been talking about the brownish density is like the strongest parts of the bone. Actually, you see, my interpretation here was not on point. So when we interpret it from here, we can see that this brownish part is in between the surfaces of the bone. So we know that this data here has a higher density, so it's the strongest in the skull. So the surfaces of the skull are slightly less strong than what's in between there. Then something else interesting. So when I visualize the other part, which is the skin, we see some features that are being captured along. So yeah, these features have densities in close proximity. If I could just maximize this such that we focus on this. Yeah, looks like we have the pipe going to this person's mouth, and the skin having close densities, and then we also have these organs here. So my intuition is that these are the cartilages around the ears and the nose and around the throat. So yeah, they're being captured as part of this. I'm not a medical professional, but maybe for a medical professional, this could actually inform them about maybe what could potentially be wrong, because you see we also have some of these pixels down here, which I find a bit unusual. At least here we know that there are cartilages around the sinuses and nose and the ears, so that makes sense, but these down here don't make a lot of sense. So maybe that would be a nice point to investigate. Then lastly, yeah, I try to visualize the densities of the different contours that I establish using a histogram. So you see the first beam represents the values between 500 and 100. That's pretty much the skin. Yeah, the skin and the cartilages, if you look at the scale here. And then this beam here represents the bar. This bar represents the skull. That's the surfaces of the skull, as we saw the external parts of the skull, whose values range between somewhere around 1,500 and 200. And then we do have these densities representing the inner parts of the skull, which are the thickest densities and probably the strongest areas. Yeah, so these are some of the explanations the insights I could extract from this data. So this data doesn't have a directional information, vector information, so it's not possible to explore things like the flow maybe of food through the pipe, and generally doing vector visualizations like a glue filter. It does not support that the way it appears with these properties. Yeah, but this is pretty much what I could extract from this. Thank you for watching. Bye.